if we are not going to become a suicidal nation, we must think in terms of children first. If we can't think in terms of children first, then it's over for us as a nation.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Oh, yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
What's up, peeps? How's everybody doing tonight? There we go. Tonight, Atlanta child murders. A couple things first to talk about. Some of you are in my Discord, and if you wonder why, I posted a meme. Well, not really. I guess memes are funny. You wouldn't call that funny. In excuse me, on my community page, a bad accident we had this morning, a change of shift, nearby community. We were there first. School bus van and a 15-year-old girl ended up losing her life. You know, a bad scene. Multiple kids, you know, just people kind of strewn everywhere. And so if you could have a thought or a prayer for Sarah Catholic High School, that's in McKeesport. And the family of this young girl, her name's out there, but I'm not going to say it. But, you know, you do what you can do when you get there. And there was a really good effort made by multiple departments, multiple agencies, police, fire, EMS. No pissing matches, guys getting shit done. Saw two different fire chiefs, one from Duquesne and our fire chief, actively cutting cars, plugging leaks in fuel tanks. So everyone got to work, but unfortunately, you know, we weren't able to help her. But, you know, you go on, you carry on. Excuse me. Thank God for medical marijuana on days like today. Let me just tell you that. Thanks, everybody. Everybody's in there. Ruckus. Ruckus is always there. Ruckus knows. Thank you. He left a nice comment before. It's just not a firefighter thing. Police, EMS, people that work in hospitals. It's just, you know, you think you could fix everybody and you can save everybody because that's what you're supposed to do. That's your job. sometimes you can't, and you don't even have a chance. And even when you know that you don't have a chance, when the medical people tell you you couldn't have done anything, it's still you know. But certain things, doing this for a long time get burned into your brain. And I didn't know it for years. Later on, it was burned in the brain. But now when you see an image, it'll be burned in. And our guys had that today. But all the guys are good, checked on everybody from our department. So everybody knows now it's 2023. We don't hold that shit in. That's why I'm so big with the PTSD stuff. So, thoughts and prayers for them, please, before you go to bed tonight or whenever you pray, whatever you do. Going to school, impossible situation. So I don't know how you cope. Anyways, Delphi, right? Delphi. Goodness gracious, Delphi. I don't remember where I commented at. It might have been a chat. It might have been in Discord where I said that if you would make a movie and this was Delphi, nobody would believe it. They would say this is too unbelievable. The only thing I'll say about Delphi is this. That's the defense, the really good defense. I mean, 136 page. They wrote War and Peace, a condensed version of War and Peace. And people are like, well, there's no Keegan Kline angle in there. There's no this, there's no that. And I don't know anymore. Like my ass from a hole in a wall in Delphi. I feel like I'm on to something and I grasp something. Then I'm like, oh shit, that's, but the defense is not going to put anything incriminating in that document. So I don't know if the Klines are still involved or not, or if Keegan Kline, I don't know. I used to be sure he was, and I was sure he wasn't. Now I'm like, But if he is, and that's Alan's attachment, they're not going to put that in there. You understand? So I'm thinking whatever the defense has, or I'm sorry, the prosecution has, is going to be different than that document. So no wonder they didn't put it in there. You know what I mean? If it's true. But just think of it that way. So look at it from both sides is all I'm saying. Let's say hi to everybody and let's jump in. I have some couple cool videos. I've been sharing some cool John Douglas work. Papa Smoke, I think it's Papa Smoke, did a really, really good interview with him. And he talked for a few minutes about what happened there, the profile. Profile never been officially released, but the Atlanta Journal-Constitution got their hands on it, and they did an article about it. I'm going to share that with you too. This is a multiple episode thing. I don't do 4 or 5 hour live streams. I try to keep it to a minute 30, or hour 30, excuse me, at the longest. But you're probably going to need maybe 5 to 7 hours to really cover this. And there's things that I'm going to tell you that are going to be like, you're like, come on, outlandish. Well, we all kind of cover Delphi, right? So outlandish, what the fuck's outlandish anymore, right? Every day there's something more outlandish with that case. But there's some crazy things here. But the people that are saying some of these crazy things are the parents of the victims, documentary filmmakers. It's just like YouTube crazies, right? Sometimes they're, we're all a little crazy, but there's people that are nuts and there's people that are middle nuts and all that type of shit. But I'm interested to show everyone that. Mother of All Dragons moderator. She can shed some light on this. I was talking to her about this growing up there around that time. I believe I have that right. Tanisha, just Dave in Pittsburgh would call you Joe DiNardo because that was our weather guy for the longest. Dave has some really cool. I never get to catch his lives because Dave's like a night owl, but I share them. And I like his he does like I don't even know if this is a potpourri of true crime shit that's going on to kind of update you. My man Ruckus, I look forward to doing something with him soon. He got a lot of shit going on right now. Dave had to get coffee, not a problem. Jinx is here. I was just talking to Jinx in a Discord like 4 minutes, well, about 10 minutes ago now. Here she is. All right, anyone else in here? So I did that. All right, I hope people pop in or watch it later. There's a lot going on with Delphi, and I understand, but I had this scheduled for today, and it's good for me to come on and talk to you guys today, honestly. Never feel bad for me because that's I don't like people feel bad for me, but you just have tough days and it's good to have friends. So don't feel bad for me. Make yourself feel good. So the 4 people that are watching right now, thank you for being in here. because I always enjoy our interactions. And 4 people here are people that are always here. So it's awesome. Anyways, Atlanta child murders, right? So this happened between 1979 1981. Let me say something very clear so everyone understands. There's a lot of things about this case that most people don't know. First of all, it was, over 40 years ago now, right? I was born in 1979, so I don't remember any of this. I remember the made-for-TV movies and stuff, and you hearing about it, but I don't remember the coverage of the case, the actual trial, any of that. I had to go back and review all that. So no one was ever charged with any of the child murders. There's 30 murders in total. Wayne Williams was charged with only 2. Charged, tried, and convicted of only 2 murders in this situation, okay? That was Jimmy Ray Payne. He was 21. That was Nathaniel Cater, who was 27. Never charged. No one, I repeat, no one was ever charged with a single homicide in the Atlanta child murders. Not one. I'm going to show you video where the police commissioner says that they know that it's more than one killer. John Douglas, I'm going to show you a video, says he knows it was more than one killer. He believes Wayne Williams is guilty of several of the killings, but he knows. They all say this. So to have this narrative that goes back that the police didn't even think he did it all. But what did they do? They tried to wipe cases off. And there was murders that are after Wayne Williams was arrested, okay? Many different things here. This episode's called Why. Why were these things being done? So I'm going to give you some motives that people had and give you my opinion on it. I've studied this case for when I first got into true crime, probably 2.5 years ago, and studying things. I got directed to this probably a little bit longer, but I didn't dive into about 2.5 years ago with the Mindhunter, right? They talk about it. John Douglas. This was John Douglas's shining moment. But as John Douglas tells you, they hated him in Atlanta. They wanted him out of there. They thought he was full of shit. People at the FBI weren't sure what was going on. Then he makes some crazy prediction that I'm going to talk about in a little while, and it comes true. And then here, this guy's convicted, appeal, go to Supreme Court, 7-1. One guy dissented on the state Supreme Court on his appeal. He goes to jail for 2 murders, only charged with 2. Only charged with 2. He fit the profile. We haven't seen the full profile. I haven't seen the full profile. Talk about wanting to see the full profile. How about the Delphi profile? That's a document I would really, really like to read because I think I know what's in it. Maybe I'll do a live by me guessing what's in that profile, but it might never get released. So this was never released officially. Atlanta Journal-Constitution has it. We'll get back to where Williams fits. He fits a lot of it, but they don't get it right every time and 100%. So we have this general consensus that Wayne Williams is the Atlanta child killer. He's not. The police don't even think he is. Okay, I can't get that enough, stress that enough fully. I'll show you videos. I'll tell you different YouTube pages that have really cool stuff on them. I have it all here tonight for you. And then I'm just going to give you like a case overlay. I'm going to give you some of the motives, okay? So let's talk about some of the motives. Why would people be doing this, okay? If it's a single offender, and defenders change MO, okay? MO is how they, okay, let me put it this way. Let's say an offender walks in a house, he shoots the husband, he does whatever, he essays the wife, and then he, strangles the wife. His modus operandi in that situation, he's using a weapon, okay? He's killing the husband first. He's the most dangerous. Then he's strangulation. So he has 2 different things going on there. But they'll be very specific. He won't strangle the husband and shoot the wife. Okay. Could a serial killer have multiple MOs? I don't know of any that go past maybe 2. And in certain situations, people used a gun or a weapon because they had to get out of it, but it was still part of their serial killing. Okay. The methods of death in these 30 killings. Okay. Strangulation with ligature. That means something, around the neck, some kind of ligature around the neck, blunt force trauma to the head, multiple stab wounds, suffocation, and a gunshot wound to the back. So right away, if you tell me those things, if I say, hey, what are the methods of homicide? You read me all them different things. I'm like, well, it has to be more than 1 and possibly 3. Okay. Someone's blunt force trauma and people, he's beating them in the head. The gun and the knife, listen to me for a second on this. That could be the same person. The person could want to use the knife, but have lost control with the first one, and at the second one gained better control and was able to use the knife. But we don't know this. But anyways, just look at that. One guy's going to do all that, right? Is what they're saying. Wayne Williams had all these different MOs. I don't believe that. Wayne Williams involved himself with children. He was a talent scout. Not all those people are creepy, but there is a good percentage of those people that are creepy. He's looking for kids 11 to 21, boys or girls. Wayne Williams was a homosexual. Wayne Williams did not want to talk about being a homosexual, though. John Douglas told the prosecution during the trial, he laid out what they should say to this guy. And I'll get to that. You'll be really fucking blown away at what this man predicted and how it all played out. So John Douglas, excuse me, is down there and he's working with the team. And he says, this is what you want to do. You want to go this route, and this route, catch him in a lie, confront him, get him to come out, because he will, because he has this anger. John Douglas believes Wayne Williams is good for a few of these homicides. And that's a serial nature. So you have to have some kind of anger or rage. He thinks he can pull that out. So the other thing he says is question him about being a homosexual and pester him about it. Not because there's any problem with him being gay, but he had a huge issue with him being gay. I'm going to say with his gayness. I don't even know if that's a bad thing to say. I don't mean it that way, so I don't think it is. But with him being a homosexual, he had a huge issue with that. We know he's attracted to boys. We know he had homosexual sex with people. They admitted it. But he also had heterosexual sex too. So you have a kid, and John Douglas said this in the profile that we read. He probably resented his parents, who were the age of his grandparents. They were overachievers. They were overachievers in life. They were retired school teachers. They were, or his dad at least was. I don't believe mom was too or not. She might have been. Beautiful home, beautiful life. They gave him everything they wanted. He was a prodigy as a child. Really smart around radios and radio stations. He had his own radio station in his house when he was, I believe, 10 to 12 years old. He would broadcast things from there. He was real into music, loved the Jackson 5. I'm not making that up. He was huge with the Jackson 5. He was trying to form a band that started out as, I think, called Silky and then became called Gemini. It was a girl band. But all these things were failing. His parents almost went bankrupt funding this radio station. It was defunct. And he kind of resented them. He lived at home. He drove their vehicle. He drove their car. And he got one of his own eventually. He got repossessed, always like a police car. He was arrested for impersonating a police officer. John Douglas said in the profile, this guy will always carry a weapon at all times. When he got arrested in, I think it was 1979 for impersonating a police officer, he had a loaded shotgun in the back. So these are all things as the Wayne Williams thing happened and as it came in to fruition, what happened was, yeah, he's definitely good for some of these. And he fits this FBI guy's profile. And at first they hated John Douglas. How did they find John Douglas to be credible all of a sudden? And here's what happened. Here's one of the reasons that the city of Atlanta didn't like John Douglas, including the mayor and the police commissioner. He said this is a black offender. All the victims are black. He's a black offender. And they're like, whoa, why would someone from our community? It's the Deep South, right? It's the late 70s, early 80s. It's Klans involved. The Klans involved. No one would do this. And John Douglas says, listen, this isn't a motive thing that I'm talking. I'm talking an availability thing. And if you watch the show Mindhunter, they send out one Agent Smith, kind of the goofy, naive, the new guy, the new FBI agent that they have coming into the BAU. He's coming in and they tell him to go to this project and try to get these black kids to get in the car with him. And these black kids immediately scream at him. And I could see this maybe happening, but hold on one second. And they say, hey, well, let me see your dick. And he's taken back, and the cops in the car are laughing. They think it's funny. And but what they do is, if you're a cop, you're not going to be able to do that. These kids don't want to see it. And then some ladies yelling, hey, what are you doing here? Get the fuck out of here. And I don't know if they actually did that in real life as an experiment, but they knew a white person wasn't coming into these neighborhoods, and they'd be readily seen. They'd be remembered by everybody, right? If you saw a young black child get into a car in these neighborhoods at that time, that would have stood out. That would have looked weird. What's going on here? That doesn't seem right. That's not something we see every day. And it certainly would have caught people's attention, and they would have remembered details about cars and different things like that. So that's one thing there. So is I'm gonna lay this out. Then I'm gonna show you some of these videos. Okay, then I'm gonna get to your comments before I do get to the videos. So multiple people here were involved in this case. Let me tell you about Uncle Tom Terrell. They called him Uncle Tom Terrell. He had Uncle Tom's cabin. If you watch Mindhunter, and this is true from the case, and they talk about the house by the stadium, was Atlanta's Fulton County Stadium where the Braves used to play. There was a house by the stadium, right? This was Tom Terrell. Tom Terrell was a known multi-convicted sexual predator. He was tied to so many of these children who were missing. He admitted they were staying at his house. And what they were doing, these kids were engaging in really risky behavior. They're growing up in dire consequences. There's no money. Sometimes there isn't food. So they're able to put some money in their pocket by doing things that, are definitely predatory by these older adults. Because these kids aren't having these thoughts of their own to go there and, hey, I'll propose this and that. These old, sick fucks are actually going and grooming these kids. So they give them this and they give them that. Uncle Tom Terrell, did he kill any of these kids? I don't know, but he certainly knows who did. He was certainly involved. There was kids that stayed at his house the night before they went missing. And he admitted that on a TV interview. Hey, yeah, they went missing, blah, blah, blah. They were supposed to come back, but they never did. Well, how is this? I mean, I'm sure they interviewed him, but how is he not like, you're the last adult that we maybe known that saw these kids. We know you're a convicted sexual predator. I don't know. I just don't know. But that's what they call him. Ed Edwards was his famous serial killer and reformed, a crazy guy. He claimed at some point he did this. And there's actually people down there that thinks he did this. I don't know about that. Who knows? He did work for the Georgia Bureau of Investigation at one point as a snitch. We can confirm that. But past that, I don't know. He claimed that did a lot of things. He was a bad guy. So there was a Clifford Jones and there was a Jamie Brooks. They were also sexual predators that were in the area at the time. Ed Edwards was a white guy. Jones and Brooks were both black guys. So the Ed Edwards thing is a little leery for me because how is he getting access to all these kids? Because like they said, you're not gonna be able to do that. That's just not gonna fly. And especially again, 1979 to 1981, Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta's a beautiful city, but I mean that's almost 50 years ago. And that, there was certainly more racial lines than there are today. I'm assuming the racial lines are better. I don't know. I'm not from the South, but certainly then there was black neighborhoods, white neighborhoods, Hispanic neighborhoods, whatever the case was. Almost like old New York. When everyone came over, got off the boat, the Italians lived, the Irish lived together. It's just how it was. That's just what communities do since the beginning of man. So, all right. There has been many claims of why this was happening. Was it sexually motivated? Well, none of the kids were victims of actual sexual assault. As far as I could tell, that's true. Doesn't mean that this wasn't the cause of it. It doesn't mean that something didn't happen before and then the kids were, they had to be taken out. Whatever the case was, some of these are. I'm telling you right now, some of these are. We have kids where they do undoing. And what undoing is, and I was talking to a couple of people on Facebook yesterday about with the Delphi case, redressing Libby or Abby. I'm sorry, redressing Abby, who I think is the target in the Delphi case based on the way that her body was left and treated. To the killer or killers, with some respect to them. That's how sick and twisted the minds are. And they wanted to purposely disrespect liberty. But normal people, and be glad of this. How can they think that? Well, normal people don't think that way. Things would never cross your mind. But the people that did this, or person that did this with the Delphi, said, that's what goes on. So undoing, some victims' feet were washed. That's a religious or non-secular thing, is it not? Washing the feet, Christ washed feet, and then it was done like symbolically. It wasn't like it was done to, in my opinion, remove DNA. If you have, then you could see there's some of the pictures, you could see pictures of the crime scene. You could see, unredacted ones, but you don't need to see unredacted ones. You could just see, waist down or something like that, or the way you could see things from that. So if you want to look at that, to me, it has like a religious overtone to it. And I wonder, and I don't know if it's for a fact, but on Mindhunter, the little kid in season 2 that was playing with the older kids, and they somehow ended up dying. And then Detective Bill Tench, who was Robert Ressler's son, had the idea to try to resurrect him on the cross because he saw it in church. He was a disturbed child. They got him from they adopted him, so they don't know what he had before. He was going through enuresis, which is bedwetting, a regression of it. And these are all things part of the homicidal triad. So that's why that's put in that show. But I just wonder that if that part of Mindhunter wasn't based on the one victim that was left tied in a school like that with the feet washed and underwear stuffed in the mouth from someone else. So, there's actually a couple families that believe that their children had needle marks around their groin, and that interferon was being removed. Interferon is a drug that treats cancer today. And they thought the tests were being done, and this is how they were doing the tests. And whatever happened, happened. And a couple of the kids did have needle injection marks on the groin, but they were never able to say what they were from. So these are families saying it, though, and you watch the videos, and I'll share to them, and they're believable people, and they truly believe this. So it's crazy, right? I'll cover this more in depth in a future episode, but the 8100 file. So the 8100 file was a top secret file, and you had like the Georgia Bureau investigation. I'm sure they had some FBI help going together there, and what it was looking into the Ku Klux Klan doing the murders of the children. So one of the things that they used to dismiss this is like, listen, if the Klan was doing this, they would do a public spectacle. They'd want people to see it. The Klan hangs people on Main Street. Well, they used to do that shit, but as brainless as someone that's going to be in the Ku Klux Klan is going to be to join that organization, they know that they can't do that anymore. Even in this 1970s, 1980s, you can't do that anymore. You're going to get caught. People are going to see you. People are going to tell. They're not afraid of your bathrobes and your bullshit anymore. But there was a man, Charles Sanders. Charles Sanders had a pickup truck, and Luby Jeter, one of the victims, had driven. It was a bike or a scooter, accidentally wrecked into it and scraped it. And I don't know, it was kind of a yelling confrontation. Jeter takes off. And at some point, Charles Sanders makes a statement to a witness who came forward to police when Luby Jeter went missing to the 800. This went in the 8100 file. The Charles Sanders says, I'm gonna strangle that. He used a racial epithet, and Luby Jeter's cause of death was strangulation. So what I think happened here is multiple different predators were preying on a community. The public really didn't know till 10 children were missing what was going on. Why? Well, if you watch the video that I put up early on to start this, and I shared it on Facebook, I always try to do a good bumper video. I showed a picture of the Atlanta airport. So the Atlanta airport was huge. This was going to bring everybody in with this giant airport. I don't know if it was the biggest airport at the time in the South or whatever the case was, but it was fantastic, beautiful. No one's seen anything like this. The mayor, the police commissioner, who I will bring up a lot more in other episodes, didn't want to get out that Black children are being murdered. Who the fuck wants to come to a city like that? Who's going to use this airport? So political maneuvers and a Black mayor and a Black police commissioner, in my opinion, did some selling out of children of their own community. Children. And there was pressure put on from who knows how far. It could have been from DC, right? Hey, listen, you make this, we can't have this happening. There was legitimate concerns of racial riots in Atlanta, Georgia, if the Klan was leaked. This was the reason that the KKK, sorry, Deb, your comment's been up there for a while, and I didn't even notice. This is the reason that the KKK file was kept hidden in the name of civil. We can't have civil unrest. Because if people hear about what's in the 8100 file, they're going to go to the streets and riot. Because there's some Klan involvement in some of these murders. To me, there's no question about it. Now, there's 30 murders. So, you know, case by case is hard to do, but you could dig into it. A lot of people have done a lot of good work on it. Okay. So there's a couple things that I want to show you. So here I go, tech savvy as I am. I'm going to go into my Gmail. Oh, you know what? Before that, let me answer some questions here or some comments that anybody has. Because I'll be off here for a second. Getting that on, show you guys what I got. Dave, yeah, definitely. Dave's got really cool content. Honeybee, great stuff. She just put a really cool video up about case rates being solved. I tell you what, Indiana and Carroll County especially, they're at the bottom of a lot of lists. Louise is here. How are you? Jinx, I didn't know you were sick. I didn't see that anywhere today. I hope you feel better, whatever's going on with you. Hopefully Frosty didn't give you COVID at the bridge. You know, that Frosty and his COVID. I only joke. I caught some of his in Snays. I was sleeping before. Yes, he did. That's what I said. There's times where killers have veered off, but they'll carry an additional weapon, and maybe it's to control and then do what they want to do. I don't know if you heard Luis, they're saying that he's not involved. Those sketches are BS or BTKS. Tanisha, I think with the multiple different killings that happened here by, in my opinion, multiple different people, there certainly was in some. And we know that you don't have to have necessarily a SA for it to be a sexually motivated crime. There's other things that these guys do. And again, as a normal person, you shouldn't understand that. I'm glad that you don't. But if you dig into the profiling stuff and the work that John Douglas and the BAU and the original Mine Hunters did, and Dr. Ann Burgess, you start to get a feeling for it. And you want to know more because you want to be able to say, how can we, there has to be a way to stop this, right? We've garnered this information from people's brains. How do we use it? And they're using it now. That's why the number of serial killers are down so far. Okay, they're like, oh, the 70s and 80s, that was a heyday for everyone was just waking up and saying, I'm going to start fucking killing people. That wasn't the case. Police departments were competing. They didn't share information. There was no national database for shit. People had an index card with their thumbprint, you know. I wonder if this looks like it, you know. That's what they did. So self-hate was a thing too that Douglas said. You're absolutely right, and I agree with that with Wayne Williams. Yeah, he did. But again, I don't see Wayne Williams being the Atlanta child killer. Could he have had things with Cater and Jimmy Ray Payne? Yeah. Could it have been, I'm going to go public and tell people you're gay? I always theorized that because John Douglas had such a strong feeling that Wayne Williams did not want people to know he was gay. Because in some way, shape, or form, in his twist of mind, he viewed that as being inferior. Maybe it was the time he came up. You know, a lot of people were homophobic years ago, and it was accepted because you were a macho. You know, and then we kind of grew up a little bit, and I think our brains got a little bit bigger. Yeah, Slapjack. Slapjack is let's see if Tanisha. Yeah, it's like a hard leather strap, and it has like I don't know if the one end's like necessarily it's like weighted or there's like a bead on it I've seen. Yeah, but it'll mess you up really quick. A shot across the head with a slapjack, like maybe two of the kids, they had blunt force trauma to the head, but you probably could kill someone by hitting them in the head with that. Might have to catch them a couple of times or catch them just right, but it was a thing the police carried too. Police had that when they were allowed to. They were allowed to carry stuff. They had Kubotons and shit like that, and they would just whack the shit out of people with them. I mean, if they're able to do that instead of shooting them and killing them, and then the cop has to live with that, and that guy's family, great, rubber bullets or whatever. But, I'm sure a lot of police use them most police use them for the right, but I'm sure there was people that were taking advantage of them. But some of those things would absolutely F your day up. Are we talking Delphi? Yeah. I was always curious with Diffendafer, I think is her name. She's retired now, the FBI agent. If you're talking Delphi, Louise, I'm assuming you are. I was always interested with her term of staging. It wasn't posing, okay? And then there was two things in that original Ron Logan warrant where she said staging. Staging means, for the most part, that you're doing this to throw off law enforcement. Husband and wife have a domestic. Wife shoots husband in the head. Wife puts the gun on the floor and tries to act like, oh, he killed him. So, you know what I mean? So that's just an example. Something like that happens. Where posing is something done for the gratification of the killer. That would be a signature. Something that's not necessary for this crime to occur, but they do it. You had multiple people say this is something you would want to take a picture of. Why? As soon as I heard that, I thought they have already taken the crime scene and matched a picture somewhere to it. Is it an odinistic thing? I don't know. I don't know about all that shit, but I was just always curious. I've said that before on that. If hopefully you're talking about the same thing, Louise. Was Delphi. I always thought that was odd terms for her, but she didn't mess that up. Like, she specifically did that. So that's just something else. It's just, I don't know if we're talking about Delphi or not. Yeah. Okay. So like I said, staging, when you stage a crime, that's to throw off law enforcement. Now, within staging, there's, 8 different subcategories. And then you have posing. Posing, and there's like probably 12 different subcategories. And within that, you have like sexual posing, this and that. But staging, you could stage the scene. People say you staged the scene and you could pose within staging. Absolutely, you can do that. And it's kind of a generic term that people use, but when you really break it down and you look the FBI definition of it, staging is done to deceive and posing is done for gratification. But people use the term staging is used way more than posing. But when she said staging, and then she said in her experience, a killer would take a memento or a trophy from here, that made me think posing. So I don't know, but there's an answer within that, and eventually we will get it. So a lot of people go back and forth with it. Or maybe you mean local didn't think it was staged. Yeah, okay. Is that what you're saying? Sorry. I agree with you. And let me tell you why I agree with you. One of the biggest gleam of information for me out of the Delphi documents that we just saw was the first mention of the behavioral analysis unit's FBI profile. They said that the FBI believed it was an odinistic sacrificial, or not sacrifice, I don't want to use that term, an odinistic scene. So they didn't believe that someone staged it to look odinistic. They thought it was the real deal. As long as that information is true and accurate. We haven't seen a profile. And but if that's what you're talking about, I'm right on that with you. I agree with you totally there. Atlanta PD had a lot of issues going on for sure. And John Douglas, they hated him. Because he'd walk into one of the task force meetings and everyone's down there fucking off. And he's like, this is bullshit. What are you doing? And the Atlanta, I forget the guy's name. He was in Mindhunter. He had his real name. He was the FBI director, or the local director at the time. He was one of the first black local FBI directors in the country. And they loved him. He was a kick-ass guy. And he was down there cracking the whip on people too. And some people didn't like that. The FBI's down. Well, we don't need your help. And they were told to go away and go home at one point. Yeah. So the Mindhunter kind of plays it up a little bit, but that's similar to what happened. It's not that far off. Bodies every 10 days. Oh, Jinx, I was just kidding about Frosty having COVID. I don't want to scare you. That was like 2 or 3 weeks ago anyway, right? Or do what I do, vitamin C and pot. They got to win Monday. Interesting game, but talking about Delphi. Yeah. If you look up the FBI, I don't know if it's an FBI crime manual or just their website, they have like a really cool chart with staging and posing. Staging the scene, staging the body. There's all these different things, and then it ripples down. But yeah, it's all encompassed in the same house, let's say. So we're just kind of splitting hairs here. But I thought that Coffender, being so skilled and specific, when she used that term staging, it made me think that this was staged to look like something it wasn't. But then she mentioned the memento a killer would take out. If someone's staging a scene, they want to make it look like something else. I don't know that they're going to do that, but maybe they will. But it's very interesting. But we will have to see if we ever get to see that profile. I'm very interested to see why they didn't release that profile. It's 2017, at BAU, Criminal Minds, Science of Lambs. People would eat that shit up. They would devour that, and they would develop more tips. There's no question they would have developed more tips from it, in my opinion. But they never released it. So what's in there that they didn't want to release it? Is there a just cause? Like, we're not going to release this? Or I don't know. It's hard to understand. But yep, that's what I was just talking about with that. But I get where you are. Oh, well, yeah, I knew what you meant. I actually read it the right way the first time. Not a problem. We got you. Yeah. Moved and staged the body. I've heard people argue about moved too. How far is moved? Moved could be moved. You know, if the incident happens here and they fall here and you move them 10 feet across the room, you move them. You move them. So that's moved. And I've heard so many different things we really don't know. Can we move 5 feet, 10 feet? We talking move 50 yards? We talking different location? I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of open to almost anything now, but weird. Just bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. The way that things were done there. They were done for a specific reason, though. I think everything was done there for a very specific reason. Oh, I see what, yeah. The bodies. Oh, yeah, you guys going to do that? That's right. That's awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, so I'm going to go here into my Gmail. Theoretically, I'm going to show you a couple of videos that I think are really interesting and based on stuff that I've been talking about for Atlanta here. I always click the wrong Gmail tab. Oh, I think I got it this time. I haven't been on Reddit in quite a while, but they love sending some emails, don't they? All right. Get my John Douglas stuff here. Oh, you know what? I'm just going to show you the whole thing, and we'll kind of talk over it. Which one was it? Inbox. Let me see if it's the right one. If not, we'll watch. But very good information. Oh, this is the Atlanta Journal-Constitution first. Share the tab. I hope everybody can see it. Let me check my phone because I can't see your comments. But this here actually covers, believe it or not, the profile. And I don't know how they got the profile or anything like that. You guys able to see this? Maybe we are not able to see this, huh? Oh, yeah, we can. Sorry. Okay, so I'm just going to hit the high points of this here. Anybody wants this, I could email it or post it in my community page. One of the first things that John Douglas has said about Wayne, this is about Wayne Williams. This is post arrest, obviously. In all probability, Wayne Williams thought he would be really enjoying the trial. Douglas wrote as the prosecution wound its case down. The personal attention he would be getting is something that he's legitimately obtained. He has made feeble attempts to attain fame by being a disc jockey, ambulance attendant, talent scout, and police officer. All these positions represent power, particularly power over others. Wayne Williams, like many serial killers, can never imagine himself being convicted of his crimes. Serial killers think they're too smart to get caught. So John Douglas definitely believes Wayne Williams is a series or a serial killer. And there you go. They said it was never released. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution got documents. And what they're going to do is share a couple of the excerpts from it that I would like you to know. There's just some general backgrounds on killers that most of you probably already. They love following the media. They love putting themselves in. Let's see. Let's get to the Doug. That's Wayne Williams today. Much different looking guy. The Atlanta child killings commenced when the stress of life of Wayne Williams became unbearable, Douglas wrote. He was living alone with his parents, old enough to be his grandparents, and he probably resented this. His parents, both college educated and retired school teachers, okay, so they were both retired teachers, were achievers. I would argue they were overachievers. Between 21 and 23, while fairly bright and articulate, Williams found himself falling to one failure after another, even going as far as causing his parents to forfeit their savings by securing a loan for their son's personal business and later causing the bankruptcy. That was the radio station that he had. Wayne Williams is an angry young man seeking power who wears a mask to cover his personal inadequacies. The Atlanta serial case was his first success, and this furnished a sense of power to him. Wayne Williams orchestrated this case at will. He challenged authorities, intimidated them, and played out his own script. He got almost every police jurisdiction involved in the case and then created scenarios where all the police jurisdictions would become involved. Okay, so Wayne Williams, who I don't think at all did all the killings or anything like that by a long shot, he loved this police following him. He was a twisted individual, right? So he loved this. He finally became famous. This is what he wanted. He wanted to get fame. He couldn't have the talent. He wanted to get a group together and make them famous, and he would be like the Barry Gordy or something like that. But he couldn't do it. Assessing the testimony before Williams took the stand, Douglas observed that Williams had been trapped in lies and that the witness had testified they had homosexual experiences with him. Williams probably does not consider himself a homosexual. However, John Wayne Gacy of Illinois, remember him, did not either. Gacy sexually assaulted and killed 33 boys. You know all about John Wayne Gacy. So they won't admit that they're gay. And it's just I don't know what it is in them that won't allow them to do that. Some kind of repressed anger or rage. So except for that angle, the homosexual angle, prosecutors followed it and it worked. Okay. And then it kind of goes on to what it is. But I have actually an interview where John Douglas talks about this. And that is not it. So I want you to check this out. I don't know if this is the whole one or not. This is that Pop Smoke. Pop a Smoke. This is really good.
Had enough to bring his butt
okay, awesome.
back to the office, and he
make sure that we are you're getting this. Okay, so what we're going to do, I'm going to set this stage here. So what we have is an interview with John Douglas, and he's going to start talking around a 15-minute mark about Atlanta. So I'm going to talk, stop. I'm kind of reading the messages on my phone. Kev will hook you up, Dave says. I'm assuming you're talking about weed. I do. I have the medical stuff, man. I got the good stuff. I have the same thing on the back of my weed jar that you got on your peanut butter. It has all the ingredients. And let me tell you, today was a day that it was much needed and much appreciated. Multiple different levels. Okay, so here we are. the smoke pit. Make sure I have the exact right name for this thing here, because this is a really, really cool podcast, and I'd like to let all you know about it. Pop Smoke Media. Pop Smoke Media. So please check them out. They do an excellent job here. Anyways, John Douglas on the
They
Atlanta
let him
Child
go, even though
Murders.
looking in the car, they saw ligatures and things like that. Then the rest was this surveillance of him, for days and days, and then they finally will bring him up to to the.
Sorry, guys.
All
I'm supposed to be
happy.
around 15.
Even when you have these successes, you don't find everyone.
Us old guys have trouble with our feet down.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
All right, here we go.
But it's all good.
But the Atlanta case, because traditionally the cases were pretty much white. It was a white male serial killers, but we had sprinklings of them on the Columbus stranglings, things like that. We had some, but go down to predominantly black community, the black police, the black police chief, the mayor, the agent in charge, the FBI officers are black. He was there. Now,
Sorry, guys.
I come down there.
John Glover
go
was
through
the
all the
FBI
cases
guy I was talking about
yeah,
before.
I
By
go
the
through
way.
all the materials and the material. This is an interracial crime. This is interracial. If this is a Ku Klux Klan, if this is some kind of racist type of crime, generally there's a lot of symbolism. They'll hang a guy on Main Street. Not
If I was talking about
finding
before.
skeletonized remains like some of the ones we're finding, right now. And so, there's some symbolism. Something there. So, God, I mean. So the Bureau, you get this high ass bucket factor when you do this, you do this, and then they bring in People Magazine. I didn't ask for this. They come to my office.
Big interview he did with People Magazine. He caught all kind of shit from the FBI from it. All kind of shit.
Subject. And they go through this whole spiel about him, his race, age, kind of car, kind of criminal history. He would have marital status, the whole shebang. And are you sure? Are you sure? Who approved this interview? You approved this interview. I did this interview here. And so I got that. And then now so many cases. So now I'm down at the scene doing the onset. I remember going to one of the crime scenes.
When these guys go to the crime, they kind of have to go to the crime scene.
And he said,
and they really get a good feel.
Yeah, I'm Douglas. He says, I saw your profile. Oh yeah, yes, it's a bunch of shit. And I said,
They're profiling.
I said, well, yeah. So I said, really? I said, F you, man. I said, I didn't ask to be here. I just assumed
That was a cop that told him his profile.
I got tons of cases.
He wasn't really
It's not the
welcome
only,
initially in Atlanta.
case that
Not at all.
I have. You had all of that. Going on. And
Hey,
then the other thing
Mel,
I said,
Cold
kind of
Truth, how are you?
controversial, that the cases weren't all linked together by one offender. There were different cases.
Definitely
there,
vitamin C,
that
Jinx. I
should
think.
not be on
I
the
think
list.
will
But
help you.
Tennessee, sometimes with these departments, you get somebody, you clear the books.
This is
You-
what they were
you
doing.
gotta
They were
get-
clearing
you
the
get all these
books.
Clearances now.
30 murders.
So the clear of the book there. So anyway, came up with different ideas. The medical exam was shooting his mouth off about crime scene.
This is
evidence
one of his
being
big
found.
predictions he
And
made
so
in this
then
case that came true.
I felt the bodies would end up in water. So they started staking out the Chattahoochee River. And about the third day, they hear a plop in the water, go up on a bridge, and there's Williams.
If you watch Mindhunter, there's some cinematic, whatever the hell they call it. And it's the last night. Oh, it's the last night. And that was the day it happened. This literally happened. He said the first or second night that they were out there watching the Chattahoochee. They were all over the place, but he threw it off a little bridge over the Chattahoochee River.
And then they really screwed up, including the Bureau. They should have had enough to bring his butt back to the office, and they let him go. Even though looking in the car, they saw ligatures and things like that. Then the rest was this surveillance of him, for days and days.
They
And
would
then
follow this dude
finally
around like
bring
10
him
police
up
cars.
To the
He went to
office.
the mayor's house
he'd be
one
charged,
night and made a
but-
big scene.
but
So
now,
Williams loved
the
all this
stress of-
fucking
I
attention.
go down
Think how
now,
crazy that
consultation.
is.
Now it's,
They think
it's
that you killed 30 little,
1981, right?
28 little
And
kids.
I've only been doing this
You
since
like the attention.
1977.
Goodness.
Since I've been back in
I've
Columbia.
shared this whole
So you're
interview
now
in my
coaching
community,
prosecution.
or I will share the
Coaching
whole interview in my
the
community page
prosecution
tonight.
for ideas.
I have a couple
and I'm
cut-ups here.
observing, predicting certain things.
Listen to this,
that,
folks.
may
This is
happen here.
incredible.
And the prosecution was losing. and we're back in a room, kind of a room like this. And at the end of the day, you know, all the big shit's involved. In
So real quick, John Douglas and these mine hunter guy, they still do it. They prep the prosecution too. I have no doubt this is going to happen in Delphi. Or you would, let me retract that. I would expect that this is going to happen in the Delphi case whenever and whoever goes to court, that there will be someone from the behavioral sciences unit down there and say, do you want to ask this guy this, ask this guy that? But John Douglas, listen to this. This is amazing. This guy's fucking awesome.
The investigation, I talk, oh, did you hear him? That expert on hair and fiber evidence, he was totally wrong. He said the twist was to the right, it should have been to the left, and everyone, hey, what do you think, John? I said, you're losing the case, man. You're losing the case. I said, this guy for the defense looks like John F. Kennedy. He's got big, sparkling white teeth. He may not know shit from Shinola, but they're eating it all up. And they're nodding like crazy. Our guys, and the guys are in the room I'm talking to, our guys, you are so technical. I have no idea what you're even saying. I can't even follow, what you're saying.
I can't either.
Yeah. So anyway, so you go back in the court and they're ready to get rid of me. They go back in the courtroom.
Here it is. Here's his prediction.
I see how things are going during the trial. And I reach over and I tap one of the attorneys on the back. What's up? His name is Gordon Miller. What's up, John? I said, 1 week from today, Williams is going to be getting sick in the courtroom. He said, what? I said, 1 week from today, he's going to get sick. He's starting at an edge here now, and it's going to be a sympathy ploy that he's going to use.
Unbelievable.
So, meanwhile, I got a plane waiting for me because they're basically kicking me out for what I said the day before.
They kicked him out. They were kicking him out, like I told you before.
Holy mackerel. Wayne Williams gets sick in the courtroom. He gets sick in the courtroom. Take him away to the hospital. He's feigning that crap.
Faker.
He's feigning it. Douglas got to get back. He's got to get back. So now I'm like E.F. Hutton. Now a few of them are listening. So now, and then the defense wants to meet with me, and they had a great defense team. They ended up really liking me, the defense guys. But now he's going to take the stand. I coached another attorney, Jack Malik, had to take him on because when Al Binder, I think named Jaws
Binder, Atlanta, legendary attorney,
Kitchens. He got Williams's hands. He was on the stand. He said, "Look at these hands. Do these hands look like the hands of a serial killer?"
This turning point in the trial right here, in my opinion,
of this. Yeah. So, and he looks like the Pillsbury Doughboy. I mean, it's just the
talk about Wayne Williams.
Like he was going to be, some gargantuan killer. And so I talked to Jack and I said, Jack, what do you? And he says, what do you think? I says, well, you can now touch his hands. You can go up there, but when you go up to the stand,
this is incredible.
Hands,
genius.
I want you to say in a low voice, low enough where the jurors can. And I'm not a lawyer, just the jurors can hear you, but not hopefully maybe not even defense attorneys, and say, what was it like, Wayne? What was it like when you wrapped your fingers around Terry Pugh's throat? Did you panic, Wayne? Did you panic? No. And that's how his response. No. And then he catches himself and he says, I know you got that goddamn FBI profile in the court. And you're trying to get me to fit that profile. I'm not fitting your profile over there. And then everyone.
So that was John Douglas kind of kicking Wayne Williams' ass, if you will. All those things are verified and backed up. I'm a huge fan of him. And there's some people that are critical. Listen, he got some things wrong. Let's not. Gary Ridgway, Green River Killer, wrote a letter during the investigation, and John Douglas was like, "Hey, this isn't him," and it was Gary Ridgway. So I wanted to give you, like, tonight was like an overview of everything. I have a couple other videos with the families that next time we'll kind of get into that and some of the theories of what happened. I introduced you to a couple people. Uncle Tom Terrell, dude, that guy's dirty as the day is long. He's certainly, if he wasn't involved in hands-on killings, he certainly knows who did it. These kids were at his house, some of them, 3 or 4 of them, the night before they were missing. And then he's on the news admitting it and telling them, And but again, I believe multiple people were working, maybe not even in cahoots, independent of one another. But there was some sexual trafficking going on. They were trafficking these children. There is no question they were. Now, maybe all of it wasn't your traditional, hey, we're going to take this kid and he's going to disappear for years. Maybe it was they're giving the kid money, but they're setting up dates for that's human trafficking still. And something happened, and then they had to take the kids out or something, or else their scheme blows. The blows the ceiling off it. But could there have been multiple people in power involved or new? Yeah, it's so long ago, you might never really get an answer. But they just recently did a memorial a couple years ago, and I'll cover this in one of the later episodes. They did re-examine the investigation. They reopened the investigation and examined new evidence. And then you kind of never heard about it. And the mayor at the time, younger lady, she grew up there at the time. She didn't know the people, but she, was part of the community. She was, oh man. And then, she was all behind it and everything. And then it just kind of, I don't know what happened. It was like what they call like a popcorn fart. But again, the methods of death, you're talking strangulation, ligature strangulation, blunt force trauma to the head, multiple stab wounds, suffocation, and then the gunshot. So to me, it's just way too many modus operandi. I just don't see it. Yeah. Mine Hunters, real quick. I told you that was filmed in my hometown of McKeesport, where I still live, still a fireman at. And the San Jose Police Department is actually the McKeesport Daily News building. It was our newspaper that was here. It closed maybe 10 years ago. It was a really, really big newspaper. At one point, McKeesport was the third largest city in the state of Pennsylvania, behind only Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. We've fallen back quite a bit. We had like 50, 60,000 residents. So that was a big newspaper. So they filmed it there. Since we're talking about the Atlanta child killings, a couple of the scenes were actually, they were supposed to be in Atlanta. They were in a part of our town called Highland Grove. And one of my good friends, I'll have him on one of these times, Captain or Deputy Chief Gene, he went up there on an overtime shift where they actually paid, the city paid him and then the movie crew paid him. And what he did was he took an engine up and supplied a sprinkler thing. So the sprinklers, it was raining, looked like it was raining during that shoot when they're going to a couple of the houses and they're checking on people. That was actually in McKeesport, Pennsylvania. We actually still have a fire hydrant that's painted green and silver, like San Jose fire hydrants were painted. And it's still like that. I believe it's still like that. Next time I ride past, I'll get a picture and share it on here. And our city electrician, who's kind of like the city facilitator, he just gets shit done for us. For everybody, I don't know. He actually met the guys, the guy that played Holden Ford and the guy that played Bill Tench. And again, Holden Ford was John Douglas. Bill Tench was Robert Ressler. And Ann Burgess was Dr. Wendy Carr. Ann Burgess is still out there doing stuff. She does stuff with Dr. Mercado. The interview room, she had a really good interview there. A couple of them, actually. The Unraveling had an interview with her and Dr. Mercado that was really good. I encourage you to go check that out. That was the Pop Smoke podcast that I showed before. It's really, really good podcast. You got guys kind of sitting around shooting the shit, and they get guys like John Douglas and people on there. So it's very, very good to see that. But kind of close it up for today on this. I kind of wanted to lay you some things out. Check out my community page. I'll share some more stuff here this evening. I'll share that whole interview for you guys to watch, because it's just not about Atlanta. He talks about many different things in there. About an hour, 13 minutes. Something you could listen to when you're running a sweeper or whatever, however you want to do it. But let me see what's up here in the chat, because I haven't been in there in a while. Everybody's popping in. Yeah, everyone's hoping Jinx is better. Yeah, I was only kidding about Frosty. I think he had the flu or the COVID. It was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yeah, you know what we have here, we like, if you have the throat, you could take drops. We don't have edibles here yet, unfortunately. People make their own stuff. You can make your own legally out of the stuff that you buy there, but it's kind of a pain in the ass. And there's drops and there's things that you could take. There's different delivery methods for the cannabis. You don't have to smoke it out of either a vape or a bowl or, a joint, or I don't know. Does anyone still smoke blunts anymore? What a waste of weed that was. How many years did we do that? Elderberries. Jinx is tough. Yeah, so hi, Mel. Cold Truth is here. Thank you for popping in. Always good to see you. All kind of stuff you're getting. Gargle salt water. One of these things will work for your Jinx. For sure. Yeah, I think we're still talking about Wayne Williams there, right? Wayne Williams is a certainly bizarre character. He's bizarre now if you watch an interview. He does a lot of interviews. Seems really educated. But if you're in the body language and stuff like that, like I don't know. He is a tough nut. Sorry, I'm off on some of your questions here because I haven't read it. Yeah, real quick about this. Let me ask you this, Louise, because you're pretty versed on the documents and stuff like that. They just came out. I'm pretty sure you are. So it said in there at one point, the different detectives, someone said that Doug Carter kicked the FBI out. I'm not saying that didn't happen, but I just can't imagine him doing that. I don't know Doug Carter, and I'm not saying Doug Carter is a person, but for the state police superintendent of any state in 2017 and say, FBI, you're out of here, got to catch some flack. Then there was other people that said he doesn't have anything to do with the case really day to day, which I believe. I believe he's a speaker. You like to send him out. He's probably a really good person to talk man to man, woman to woman, or woman to woman, man to woman, face to face with people. He gets up there and he gets propped up on that stage sometimes and he's cryptic. And I get where, you got to say this, you got to say that. He seems like a likable person, like someone's like older uncle or grandpa, but he probably really does good with boots on the ground work where he's talking to people. And if the governor appoints that position, like it does probably most places, then the governor's going to send him out. People said, is he going to run for governor? But anyways, I don't have any inside info on Delphi whatsoever, but I don't think Doug Carter kicked him out. But I think that other police, it could have been local, could have done that. That's my opinion. But yeah, I did. That was in that document, the Delphi. But they said there was two different things that kicked him out. Doug Carter kicked him out. I just think that he's more, I'm not saying he don't carry this shit with him because I think he does. I think it's legitimate, his emotion. Some people say you shouldn't show that much, but at the end of the day, you need to be you. If you're emotional, you should be emotional. If you're not, you shouldn't try to be. And I think people like seeing that, especially in police. I never met the guy. I always got that impression. I know he takes a beating for things. And listen, when you're the figurehead, you're the quarterback of the Indiana State Police. So if your team wins, the quarterback, well, maybe he only threw for 180 yards, but they won, so he's getting pats on the back. But that quarterback will throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. But if he throws an interception at the end of the game, you've lost the game. It's all because of you. It's all because of you or the head coach. The head coach is probably a better analogy. The head coach doesn't even play. But he rides the waves, the good and the bad. And I think Doug Carter gets, like any other state police superintendent or any other boss in any police chain, they're going to get the good and they're going to get the bad. So I was odd about Flora with Carter, but at the end of the day, I don't really know what he thought about it initially. But listen, that guy can't just come up and just say, we all want to know stuff. He can't come up and just say, hey, this is what happened. He can't do that. He can't do that. So, no, well, yeah, that's probably fair enough. And, I'm playing Bossy this week in fantasy football. I don't know if she's in here tonight. My team kicked ass last week, Bossy. Tell him yes and then don't show up. Awesome, Dave. Tony Liggett. Oh, was that Liggett that did it? Yeah, it's, you know what? I don't know about the whole Odinist thing. I tell you what, in the last, whatever it's been, I don't know, 48 hours, I've schooled myself quite a bit on Odinism that I didn't know. And from what I can tell, and this is usually the case when there's a religious type crime, the religion that the person actually practiced wasn't violent. The person that did the crime was violent and used religion as the cause. And I see that a lot in different things. And I'm not like a religious person. I'm a very spiritual person. But, I see people that, Muslims, that they preach that. No, they don't. They never do. Just some lunatic fringe of it. The same when you had, what was that, Westboro Baptist Church or whatever. They would protest soldiers' funerals and things like that. So they're whacked out and they're using religion kind of as a crutch. Like, oh, we're doing this on a religion. Well, it could be your religion and that's fine, but don't bother the rest of us with it. You can have a building, you can go in there and hate everybody. And if everyone in there equally hates everyone and that's great for you, stay in there, or go live on a mountain somewhere and quit bothering people. So another good question there. Oh, that would be cool. So I guess you're going down. Is that Orlando? Someone sent me something like that, but it was impossible for me this year. I used most of my vacation up. Got to work Christmas Eve. Yep. Check out Cold Truth. Always has good insight and kind of been through it with people too, unfortunately. Yes, I've read all of Douglas's and one of Wrestlers. I think I've read all of Douglas's, but they're really good. Dr. Burgess's book, which I think is called Killer by Design. I have to order that. I just heard her talking about that. I think it's called Killer by Design, and that's supposed to be really, really, really good. Yeah, Dr. Burgess is awesome. Oh, you're talking about Mel. Well, good. And if Dave was in there, I missed it. Dave made a cameo. Always good to have Dave around. I saw that up there before. All right, everybody. We're about a minute 10. You know me, minute 30. Yes, Dave, she was. It's crazy how those people can do that. They're just so good at shit. Like, when she was a baby, like someone reached down and touched her and said, you're going to do a whole bunch of great shit, But Dr. Burgess is awesome. And if you watch Mindhunters, and Dr. Burgess thinks it's really funny that they wrote her in Mindhunter as a lesbian. And she isn't. She's married. And they ask her about it. And she's like, I think it's just like, I don't know if it was on The Unravelings or if it was on the Interview Room one. She might have been on Surviving the Survivor too, where they asked her and she just thought, she's like, I think it's hilarious. She's like, no one asked me why or said anything. I just thought it was funny. And I went with it. Okay, no problem. So, I'll have to check that out. I didn't see that. I kind of been off the radar here. I worked yesterday and then today was today. Yeah, I'm pro LE too for the most part. I judge everyone on their own deeds, but there's so many things in Delphi. Nobody can come in today and say, oh, the police never made a mistake and police are humans, right? Or if you watch Mindhunter, they're infallible. Everyone's infallible. So move on. Hey, man, listen, initially we thought this, but we were wrong. And here's why we thought this. So we didn't just make some shit up as cops. We were following a theory that we were proved wrong. So that's why we did this. It's okay to explain that to people. I think if you explain that to people and you lay it out there, you don't have all these crazy theories that come about. And some of these crazy theories that we heard early on, they're just might crazy enough to be true, ain't they? I don't know anymore. I digest Delphi stuff and I like to talk about it, but goodness, I am not worried, or I am not no expert on that. Sorry to my high school English teacher. Yeah, it's all weird. And I don't know if any of you guys watched Rick Snay, but I caught some of him and Frosty today, and he said that he's pretty sure that Delphi and Flora are related, right? I don't think he said later he was kidding or anything because I didn't watch the whole thing, but I'd love to know because I know someone that I think a whole lot of, and she's the knight for Florida, the knight in shining armor, and I've discussed that with her, and she's kind of thought that too. I don't want to post any of her theories, but we've talked about that. And I'm like, I don't see how. Now it's just like the only thing you can't say with anything in Carroll County, I guess, is never and always, because you never know. And they're not always going to do, that you just, it's like I said, if it was a movie, it would be, I can't watch this. This is bullshit. Yeah. And that's a good legal team there for sure. And they're doing their job, but that's a lot of stuff right now. Is that we going to get that hearing? I know it's hard to get the hearing. I've heard legal analysts say that this is like a routine thing, right? Well, routinely, you don't drop War and Peace, 136 pages. I don't know how long these things usually are, but All right. Oh, it's in Orlando. Yeah, I've been there a couple of times. It's been years. Family Disney World. To get to one of those. Well, everybody, I'm going to get ready to get out of here. I want to thank you all tonight. Great to be with everyone tonight. Great to be with people, around people, even if it's digitally. Rough day, but tomorrow's another one, and we'll carry on. As I got back to the station today, a little bit late, over on my shift, the on-duty crew come on. We're kind of telling them, hey, you need to put oil dry, you need to do this, and they're off to another wreck. So the show goes on, the world goes on, no matter what you're going through. And in a way, that gives me some kind of like respite or some kind of relief to know that, And it's like that with everybody. You might have a bad day, might be going through some shit, but the world's going to continue to roll on. So you can stop, but the world isn't. So, you kind of roll with the punches. But I want to thank everyone that came in tonight. Really appreciate you guys tonight. Probably more than any other live I've ever done. And there wasn't a ton of people. I've had way more people in lives than this before, but the people that I had, I was really happy to have audience here. And I really appreciate you coming in and talking to me tonight. Tough day. And again, if you would just, when you say in your prayers tonight, Sarah Catholic High School, and of course, the 15-year-old young lady, she was a cheerleader, very popular, very nice, beautiful young girl. And she was the one that was deceased at the scene. All right, everybody, I thank you very much. And before I go, I have Gatorade tonight because I started trying to stay hydrated. I'm going to eat a lot today. Wasn't very hungry. And we will say, so we were just talking some Doug Carter a little bit there with Mel and a couple other people. We will say our tentacles. When we say tentacles, you drink. And everybody, have a great Wednesday night. And I hope to talk to you all soon. I'm doing something with Silky soon, but I'm going to let her put that out. And I'm not even sure what the topic is, but she asked me to come on, and I said, yeah, because I enjoy her channel so much. So, all right, everybody, thank you very much. And please wear your seatbelts, slow down. Wherever you're getting isn't that important. Just, do that, please. All right, everybody, have a good night. Coach Kev out.